Just to give you an update on where we are in regards to damage in the Wichita area and basically road closures, the Wichita Police Department is down to pretty much the area of Pawnee and Rock Road. Pawnee is closed from Woodlawn to Rock Road, and then Rock Road is limited access one-way southbound in that same general area around Rock Road and Oak Knoll. Other than that, Westar has been diligently working and throughout all Sunday and last night, and they cleared up a lot of areas, and so traffic is very much open in most of those areas. Earlier this morning we did get another call of a potential line down in the area of Governor and Harry, and we are out there working on that. That should be, according to Westar, a very, very short cleanup, and probably most of your folks won't even notice that.
When you say they've been working diligently, you mean removing or replacing down car lines and stuff?
Both. Removing and replacing, checking various areas. Like I said, it's kind of the same old thing. You tighten the line up to clean it up, and then you might have another thing go down a little bit further in the area. We're down to really the officers that are assigned to generally work that area. We have some that have been brought in from outside areas, but we're almost to the point where we're ready to kick those officers loose back to regular detail.
Terry, if you would, will you talk a little bit about Saturday night after the storm? And what was it like for you guys?
Busy. Because of, and you guys in the media know this too, because of the advance notice and what we received beforehand, our officers were ready. We always have an emergency mobilization plan that allows us, based on the amount of damage and whether it's a natural disaster, man-made disaster, we have ways that we can set up and call people in. It became very apparent to us early on in the Emergency Operations Center that most of the damage was actually outside of Wichita, but we did have a fairly significant pocket right there around Pawnee and Rock Road. Because it was a Saturday night, we actually had very full staffing, and we were able to take a lot of our officers that we use for flexible staffing on Saturday night and really send them into that area. And they were able to very quickly kind of give us a outlying perimeter of where the damage was. And we were able to set up a nighttime schedule, and then we immediately worked on a daytime schedule for Sunday night, and now we're to the point where we're pretty much back to normal staffing.
And as far as search and rescue, is that more fire?
Actually, we do it in combination. Again, having an emergency operations center like we do, we're all sitting side by side. Sheriff is sitting by the Wichita Police Department, who's sitting by the Wichita Fire Department, who's sitting by Sedgwick County Fire Department, and we all sat there together, and we figured out where our command post was going to be. We determined that, like when we're looking for a suspect, you kind of do it by a grid map. And where your major damage is, you kind of do an initial assessment very, very quick based on the calls that you receive. Then you pull everybody out, and then you say, okay, where are the areas that we haven't looked yet? And you kind of create, like I say, a grid map and determine how you're going to go in and look. And then at some point, and I think you all know this as well from being out there, when it's dark, you pull back and say, we've got to wait for daylight to do the real thorough last walkthrough to make sure everybody's accounted for.
And as far as what was happening that night with the path of the storm and everything and the damage that we did get, would you say we're pretty lucky?
Oh, extremely lucky. I think the entire Midwest was extremely lucky. Having been the scene commander in the Hayesville tornado, and then going back and seeing what we had this time, and even the Andover tornado, those of us that have been around for a long time, very, very lucky, statewide, region-wide. Again, the advances in technology have helped us tremendously. You look at the damage in that trailer area down in Oaklawn, and I can only imagine that's very similar to the Hayesville tornado in that trailer park, and we had deaths back in 1999. And I think the advanced warning, I think people knowing where to go, has helped tremendously in saving human lives. Now we've got to get better at building buildings so we can save buildings as well.
And that's the other thing too. I think people actually took this one seriously. They
Very
were
much
like,
so.
oh, it won't hit us.
Mm-hmm. I know my family took it seriously, and I think a lot of families did. It's great practice for families. It's a great opportunities to make sure they have their kits, to make sure they have their plans. And like I said, it was great use of the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center.
Do you have any issues with looting or other?
We had a couple of calls, and I think a couple of them were people were wondering why people were wandering around in those buildings. I don't know that they were necessarily looters. They may have been well-intentioned people that were trying to help, but it was like, why are you in this location? And with no, 911, not 911, but 211 and United Way hadn't yet set up a volunteer area. And so you always get a lot of calls of suspicious characters and that kind of stuff until you get an organized response. Had a lot of people in the area. I would say the one negative out of this event, and I know the media feels the same way I do, the one negative in these events is the onlookers. The people who get in the way of the people who need to do jobs. And we know the media were our partner and announced that over and over and over again. But the number of people that we had that were out simply looking at damage really created a backlog in traffic and made it very, very difficult for emergency responders to get in.
So at this point, there were some suspicious characters called in, but no real looting.
No confirmed cases of looting at this point.
I can't say as I've actually gone through and pulled the entire list, but I'm not aware of any. I've not been made aware of any.
Terry, how many officers did you have to put in that area? Because you don't want to leave the other areas around.
Again,
how does that work?
Saturday night and pre-planning, it happened on Saturday night. We have our SCAT team, our Special Community Actions teams, that are fully staffed on Saturday nights. That's our normal big night, whether it's for Old Town activities, prom activities, whatever. That is our fully staffed night. So since we knew the weather was coming in, we knew we were fully staffed, and those are our very flexible units. Those are the ones that we can send anywhere in the city. So immediately, as soon as it came out, as soon as we knew where the damage was sent to, we were able to shove almost all of our first responders to that area and keep the regular beat officers that are responding to 911 calls in their areas. We also assisted the sheriff. The sheriff had damage down in Oaklawn, and again, we're sitting side by side in the Emergency Operations Center, and they're telling me, I need people down in Oaklawn. We pulled a couple people from both south and west that were normal 911 responders, and we sent them down to Oaklawn to assist the sheriff's department. And then on Sunday, we have our normal community policing officers that work generally through the week. We planned ahead, and we called them in for Sunday, because normal Sunday is actually a very low staffing day for us. And we, again, early Saturday night, we made phone calls, made sure they were available, and that's our flexible units that aren't really tied to 911. And it's wonderful to have that flexibility in regards to being a police commander, so you can move people around.
Terry, where were you? Were you at the
EOC?
EOC?
Mm-hmm. Emergency Operations Center.
How many officers and personnel in total would you estimate mobilized in response Saturday night? We're talking dozens?
Oh yeah, let me do the math in my head. We sent somewhere between 15 and 20 to the Oaklawn area. And then we had, I think at one time we counted 28 different people in the Pawnee and Rock area. So that, I would guess about 50 Wichita Police Department personnel were assigned basically to that damaged area, whether it be in Sedgwick County or the city of Wichita. And again, because it was a Saturday night, and we were fortunate that that's when we have people out, vast majority of those people were on duty. I was not, but neither were
It's
you.
early yet, but is there anything that unfolded over the weekend that you're looking back on? We need to change this, or we need to learn from this?
I think the one thing we need to change is people's attitudes about going out and looking around. If we could change that, I think that would help the community, make the community a lot safer. But in terms of our response, we'll go back and look over it. We always do post-incident reviews. It's a little early yet. But overall, I haven't heard any major complaints or major concerns. Again, we were fortunate to a certain extent that it happened on a Saturday night because it was one area where we had a lot of flexible staffing out there. And we had the resources that we could use that were already on duty. If we saw something like this coming on a Sunday night, it would require us to think, okay, we're going to have to plan ahead because Sunday night is not a night when we would normally have a large amount of staffing. So again, you just kind of have to, the weather is helping us, the technology is helping us tremendously in terms of planning. Other questions? And I would like to thank all the media. Our media partners were very, very helpful. I heard very positive things from everybody that was out on the scene in terms of your cooperation and working with us. So thanks to all the media.
Hi, Van Williams with City of Wichita Communications. We've got more follow-up regarding the city's tornado response, and Joe Pager is here to talk about what residents can do with their storm debris.
Joe Pager, Assistant Director of Public Works and Utilities. For those individuals that are self-hauling storm debris, there are 4 options for them. There are the 2 transfer stations and the 2 solid waste landfills. Individuals should check with the facilities in terms of cost and material accepted. There are additional restrictions at the construction demolition landfills. We're also encouraging people to make sure that if from the tornado waste there was any household hazardous waste that was generated to be disposed of, that material be segregated and taken to the household hazardous waste collection facility.
I've heard talk that several of these structures in Oaklawn, because of their age, have asbestos in them. Is there going to be any special steps taken to remove that asbestos in the course of the cleanup, or how's that going to be handled?
The cleanup is going to be much more complicated in the Oaklawn area as well as the mobile home area to the south of Oaklawn. Those areas are going to be under the requirements that Sedgwick County will establish, and they'll be working with those neighborhoods to clean up the much more extensive and complex debris fields that resulted from the tornado in those areas. I want to emphasize that the City of Wichita program that we're talking about this morning is for tree waste only and is limited to the path of the tornado damage. Specific limits for areas that are going to have material picked up at the curb will be established, and the cleanup itself will begin on Thursday.
So Joe, like you said at the beginning, if you want to, you can take your tree damage out there, but the city will be providing something?
For those homeowners inside the city limits, if tree waste is taken to the curb beginning Thursday, we will be making a pickup of that material, tree waste only, and taking it off for proper disposal.
And the county's got to handle the Oaklawn stuff?
The county will be working with the Oaklawn Improvement District and with the townships and unincorporated parts of the county for dealing with their waste.
How long do you anticipate this program to last?
Because we're still working on setting the limits, and because we're waiting until Thursday to allow people to get waste out to the curb, as well as the remaining safety issues to be addressed, we anticipate at this point it'll be approximately 10 working days to pick up the material.